So welcome everybody. I've been thinking about this class for a while and wondering what to share with you. And I have a wonderful quote today from Pablo Casals, who's a very famous cellist, and he has this to say about children. Each second we live is a new and unique moment of the universe, a moment that never was before and never will be again. And what do we teach our children in school? We teach them that 2 and 2 are 4 and that Paris is the capital of France. When will we also teach them what they are? We should say to them, do you know what you are? You are a marvel. You are unique. In all the world, there is no other child exactly like you. In the millions of years that have passed, there has never been a child like you. And look at your body. What a wonder it is. Your legs, your arms, your cunning fingers, the way they move. You may become a Shakespeare, a Michelangelo, a Beethoven. You have the capacity for anything. Yes, you are a marvel. And when you grow up, can you then harm another who is like you, a marvel? You must cherish each other. You must work. We all must work to make this world worthy of its children. How do you like that? Today's first performer is Mason. You want to do the fiddle song now?
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice. Take a bow. Wonderful. Okay, thank you, Mason. We're not going to have time to talk about it too much. We're going to move on to Jared or Addie. Either one of you dying to go next? Any preference there? It doesn't really matter to me. Jared, why don't we have you go first? You're playing the Pathetique. And Jared had played this a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about some things for you to bring out, little polishing pieces to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm just going to pull up your score. Oh, it's all queued up. I am ready to go. Everybody else ready? Unmute yourself while he plays.
Can you hear me okay?
I can. I hear you beautifully.
Good. All right, here we go.
Well, like last time, that last page was just fabulous.
Thank you.
And a lot of things are, I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this much more than last time I heard it. It was really beautiful. Very beautiful. There's, just for future performances, there's something I wanted to try to work out with you today. Just in terms of the balance. When you have the theme, ba 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 da 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 da, you know, when you have that one, that was the wrong key, but the left hand is too loud, and it is. Where is your shoulders and put your hands on the keys right now. Don't change anything, but where's your nose? Like, what note is your nose in front of?
Middle C.
Middle C. Probably move your nose over, the whole deal over to about G. Last week when I played that Elton John song, I find out where the nose goes, and I look at where the highest note is, the lowest note is, and I think about where I want the balance to be most of the time, and then I set up that nose place.
That's smart. I never thought about that.
Well, it's going to throw a little more. It could throw a little more weight in your right hand. Let's just see if this fixes it. Can you do the Can we just do the first eight measures, and let's see how that comes off. Okay, it sounded good to me. I don't know if it was the nose position, or what exactly.
Well, it's helpful. Sometimes just drawing attention to it is good enough.
I suspected so. All right. So, in around 29, 30, 31, 32, this whole section here is dolce. And I was wondering if you could start at the dolce at 25, and when you have a crescendo, don't go so much. When you have the crescendo at 31 and 32, it should just be a little, I would think of it more like a hairpin, more like a swell. And then on the next line at 35, that run was a little too percussive. I would just toss that one off after your sforzando in the left hand. I would just toss that off and keep this whole page more of a dolce. Okay? We're not going to do it bit by bit. What I'm going to do is mention a few things and then let you do a whole run through again.
Oh man, okay, fine.
Is that okay? Or would you rather work it bit by bit?
That's good. That's probably better than going start-stop.
You're good at that. I'll never forget the time when we were looking for a pianist. Do you remember when Lorraine and I wanted to play some trios? And I said, "Oh, I have this student, Jared. He's in town." And she goes, "You ever play chamber music?" I said, "No." And she goes, "Forget it. We got to get under your swan or something." I said, "No. Let's give him a chance." And so we gave you. Not the D minor. It was the other Mendelssohn one. It was so hard, and she thought I was nuts. So anyway, we all got together and we gave you at least 50. How many? Was it more than 50 places?
That thing was harder than a concerto.
Oh, it certainly was. But and you just sat there with your pencil and all that. 10 days later, man, you came back and nailed it. And Lorraine just says, "Where do you meet this guy?" Anyway, that was amazing. So that was your first breaking in experience with chamber music. There wasn't really too much. The chorale part at 79, the balance was a lot better, but I felt it was too loud.
Yeah.
Prior to that, you bum bum, and then that's forte, and you stretch it out, and I love what you did with that. But it goes down to piano. And everything else was fine. I mean, the balance, bringing out the left-hand half notes was great. And further after that, you did take up the pedal off, right, in the arpeggios? You did?
Yep.
You're in an echoey room, aren't you? It sounded like you were. I just want to double check.
Super echoey.
Yeah, a little blooper up in
I missed
118. Yeah, 119. Yeah. Oh, this part below there at 129. That was so beautiful. Da dum ba da da dum. You know, I love the way you brought that melody, and that was all great. The dolce after that was fantastic. I really felt the sweetness. All this was good. I liked very much around 55 to 58, 57. It sounded, had a quiet feel to it, which is more important than actual volume on a dial. And after that, it could be a little bit quieter mood before we come back with the theme. And when you come back with the theme the last time, let us know a little bit more. You had a long stretched out collando, which is good. But let us know the last time that we do the theme, maybe a reminiscent, you know, a feeling like, oh yes, we're back to this again, you know, and it's the last time before I say goodbye to this beautiful, you know what I'm saying? Let us know that that's happening so that when that last page of brilliance, it's a surprise because it's brilliant and it's full of life, but we also know something's coming because we're heading towards the end. What is the end going to be? Only one correction on the last page. That forte, double forte 3 before the end. We'll do it right now before we go to the beginning. It could be even louder.
Really?
Yeah, are you dropping on it with a third finger?
Yeah.
You are.
I'm
3, 2.
I'm always afraid to screw this one up because it's so easy to screw this one up and then it just ruins the whole thing.
Well, then take a little bit of a breath and come in slightly after then. Let's try it. Can we start a couple measures before then whenever you're comfortable?
That's it. That's good to a 5.
Hear the tempo in your head first. I don't feel it with that. Good, and then now up to tempo. Oh, that's hard. That was good. Can we just do a quick run through the whole thing now?
Sure.
All right.
Now you're gonna find other stuff.
There wasn't so much as last time.
All right.
And you got your nose on task.
That's right.
right. Very good. I love that. I love it. And that was an interesting choice how to set up that last page with the crescendo when you have the counter movements with both hands at 179. I thought that was an interesting choice. I didn't think you'd do that. You surprised me with that one. That was very, very good. Very good. We're not going to do it again. General comment on this piano with these acoustics? Yeah. Yes. Okay. For your hand, I know we taught you to use the arm drop whenever you have the repeated chords. I would maybe lift the wrist and do it a little bit more from the hand rather than the whole arm. I would experiment with that and see if that's going to work a little bit better with this piano. Okay. That was gorgeous. I think we're done with this.
Yeah, I feel done with it.
Okay. I have a little assignment for everybody who plays a musical instrument. And that is, this is called the Slow Piece Challenge. To unwind from the quick pace of thought and world events, play these pieces really, really slowly, and allow the feelings to flow into each of the notes and the chords. Don't worry about the rhythm. If you need to pause and listen and feel, just taking the pulse out of things and exploring slow pieces this way. I saw on Facebook you're working on something slow, so maybe that one. I thought I saw a little thing come up with you working on a slow soft piece.
I don't know how Ravel will go over with your students.
Are you all ready for Ravel? Let's have a vote. Anybody want Ravel? We're going to do a before and after vote. Let's do a preliminary vote. Who's up for Ravel on the piano? Raise your hand. How many? Okay, Ravel wrote Bolero. Do we have any more? I hope I'm right on that. All right, very good. Thank you, Jared. Thank you. We have next Addie. And Addie is also coming back. She was here June 6th. And she's worked on another piece in between and has come back to the one that we worked on a little bit together for class. The A minor, it's written for violin and it's transposed to viola. Hold on one second. All right, I have your part in front of me now. Do you want a tune? I want to make sure we can hear you. This is a new room here. Okay. Addie, are we doing just the first page, or did you want to go on?
Measure, yeah,
To 75?
103.
103. Oh, you've been practicing. Oh, wonderful. All the way up there. That's great. What Addie's been doing is she had originally learned this through the Suzuki book. And I gave her some different bowings that are more in character with the with Vivaldi, more of a Baroque type of bowing that's makes a little more sense. So that's mostly what she's done. That's really changed the character of how she's playing it. Beautiful, beautiful, Addie. Geez. I saw you on Tuesday, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty miraculous. That was beautiful, beautiful. And the arpeggios, you did it all separate bow. You did. I love it. I think it sounded really good to do it that way. We're talking about at 75?
Yeah. I may have just panicked and not. I don't know. I don't know what I did there.
Stick with it. It was great. I love it. We're going to do a little part of this over again. Easy changes. When you have that part, oh yeah. I would not do those the same. Just do the other ones softer. And then hit the arpeggios. I just put a little echo sign there on measure 73. I might be marked, I don't know, but we need it there.
I don't have a pencil. 1 second. Okay, one more time. What am I marking?
Oh, just put a little echo at 73 for 2 bars. And you can do a crescendo into, just a 2-note crescendo into 75. And while you got your pencil out, I want you to bring out a couple of notes. At 85, I didn't know we were going to go this deep into this today. I'm so happy we get to get into some more stuff. At measure 86 on the 3rd note, just emphasize that a little bit. And then 2 measures later, the chord is the same except the chord, don't emphasize to be the 3rd note, the G. So first you have the A, and that'll give a little bit of shape to it. And I think musically there's some other things, but I think if you could bring out those 2 notes, the 3rd in measure 85 and the 3rd in measure 87, I think if you just bring that out a little bit more, that your instincts will pull that whole thing a bit together a little bit better. First page, nothing. Okay. Want to take a breath and have another go at it?
Oh, okay. From the beginning?
Let me see. We lost a lot of time. Let's start at the top of the second, or in the second page. Like, maybe 60, 61. Okay.
Sorry. I messed up my bong somewhere. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. That was something new we put in this week. That's all right. Probably, let's go on. Let's go on. You probably need a couple more days with that change in the fingering. Let's start right on it. Let's start right on it. 85. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so the two measures, let's just do measure 85 and then we'll jump over to 87 so others can hear what we're bringing out, okay? We'll do 85, then a slight pause, and then 87 to show.
Sorry, I marked it wrong.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yep.
Bum, 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 bum. Good. 2 bars later. Starts on the same note.
Oh, 2 bars? I'm sorry. I'm going to.
Okay, so can you do one and then the other one? First to 85 and then 87. Good, and then 87. See, so we're emphasizing the note that changes, I think would be really nice. Fabulous. Where are you, Addie? There you are. Thank you, Addie. Beautiful playing. It's really sounding more like, it's a little sub-tempo. And I think, but because you're still working on it, it's a little bit sub-tempo, but really for viola, it's going to be, I think it's beautiful.
I tend to rush when I get anxious, so I was thinking just take it slower in general.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. It's beautiful. I was very comfortable with the whole way that you played it. Thank you. And we have Wayne is next, and Connor is coming after that. Is Connor here? Let me see. Oh, there. Okay. So Wayne, let's unmute yourself if you're not already. Wayne, can you say something? I want to make sure you're not muted. Wayne, I can't hear you. Is this a John Cage piece? Stewart, you want to explain that?
All right. Can you hear now?
We can.
Hi.
We made a joke about it. Stewart, do you want to explain that?
like Quinn Cage.
Because Stewart, I think you performed that one, didn't you?
John Cage, yeah, just sitting at the piano, imitating sound. No, I didn't perform that.
Yeah, it's an orchestra piece, and it's all rests with measure markings and everything, and nobody makes a sound, but they're following the dynamics and the mood of the piece. And I thought that was what Wayne was bringing for us today. Wayne, do you want to tell us the piece that you're playing, or a little bit about what you're doing today?
Sure. This is Julie Massenet's meditation from his opera Thais. The interesting thing to me is that Thais is not a very popular opera for a number of reasons. There's really nothing memorable about the overture. There's nothing memorable about any arias. There's nothing memorable about any choruses. The most memorable thing about the opera is this gorgeous little 3-minute intermezzo that occurs between two scenes in Act 2. And it's written for violin E major. I've always loved the piece, and I don't actually have the music. I just listened to Yo-Yo Ma's YouTube version of it. It's written, of course, in D major for violin, and I've transposed it in my head as I've gone along into G major, which lies better for me anyway on the geography of the cello. It's a little bit lower than the way it's written in D major. So that's the intro of the piece. Do you want the story of the opera, or just go ahead and play it?
Why don't we just go ahead and play it?
Yeah. Okay. So this is meditation, Julie Massenet's meditation from his opera Thais.
Wow, Wayne, I haven't heard you in years. It's beautiful.
Thank you, thank you.
I can tell you love this piece. I felt your heart in so many places in this piece. Nice to play through the whole thing because you weren't allowed to at the funeral that you played that for because of the social distancing and so forth.
Right, I have to play a redacted version.
This is beautiful. I'm really glad you came to play that for us today.
Thank you. It's a gorgeous piece. I wish I could do justice to it.
Well, you know, I was worried about that because you sent me that email, and I thought, oh, God, what are we going to do with Wayne? But no, it was beautiful, Wayne. It really, I very much enjoyed that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, to me, it just captured a beautiful soul and spirit. Is it a tragic piece, or is it a piece about somebody celebrating something?
Well, in the opera, you know, it takes place in the times of the Roman Empire in Egypt. For some reason, the 19th century composers were fascinated with Egypt, and the main plot is that the two main characters are Athanel, a Christian monk, and Thais, a gorgeous concubine of the court. And what's going on is the monk is trying to get Thais to convert to Christianity, and Thais is trying to get the monk to become a party boy. And in the second act, between two scenes, as they're changing the scenery, she's trying to decide what to do, and she's sort of meditating on, oh goodness, what should I do? Should I stay the way I am, or should I, convert to Athanel's Christianity? And in the end, it turns out that Athanel, the Christian monk, was more interested in Thais because of his lust type feelings than his theological feelings, whereas she was more interested in converting to Christianity because of the seriousness of her feelings in her heart. So during this little intermezzo piece, she's trying to decide just what to do. And I think the first melody represents, oh, what should I do? And then it's marked, I guess, if one had the music, it's marked Andante Religioso. And then the B section is marked Poco a Poco Agitato, where she's kind of having anxiety attacks about what should I do? Should I convert or should I not convert? And then it returns to the gorgeous little theme, like, oh, maybe I will. And then there's the coda, which I think represents, okay, I've decided what to do, here it is. And in the end, like most 19th century operas, the sopranos had a very high mortality rate. The sopranos always die at the end. Very high positivity rate among the sopranos.
Oh.
And that seemed to go on and on and on until Lenny Bernstein wrote West Side Story, which at the end, it's the tenor who dies rather than the soprano. So that in short summary, the Cliff Note version is what's going on in this piece. I think she's trying to decide, what to do and sort of meditating on, should I or shouldn't I? and it's a violin solo. And actually, I looked at some of the musicology, and it noted that Ephraim Zimbalist actually played the solo with the Metropolitan Opera a couple times, and a few other famous violinists played this little solo. And it got to the point where people were actually more interested in waiting for this piece to occur during the opera than any of the actual opera arias or choruses or anything else. So I think it's a lovely little piece, and it's become a fairly popular encore piece for any number of instruments, and apparently it's been transposed, although I don't have the music, it's been transposed for any number of instruments, and sometimes with orchestra, sometimes solo. So it's a gorgeous little piece, and I've enjoyed playing it.
Very nice. You know, when I lived in Chicago, I used to play they used to do, this one church for All Saints used to put together a beautiful music thing with a choir, and it would include a solo violinist, and I would come and play for this, and it was always a really special piece. Anyway, the last time I was there before I moved to Asheville, two people came up to me and said basically the same thing. They said, "I want you to know you're in my will." And and I said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't know who you are." And they said, "Well, because I want you to play the meditation at my funeral." So one of them died, and I got the call. It was very adamant in the instructions, and so we had to pick a date when I could come down on a weekend, and then they did the whole memorial around it. And he sent me a ticket, and of course I didn't check the ticket carefully, and they did it wrong. They had it originating from Chicago instead of Asheville.
Oh,
And I didn't realize it. I thought I was leaving Saturday morning on a 7 o'clock flight, and I started getting these notices that the flight was canceled. And I'm trying to rebook, and I'm trying to figure it all out. And it's about 11 o'clock at night. I'm in my jammies. I've got my stuff by the door because it's an early flight. And then I'm looking into it, trying to book another one, and I realize what's happened is that the reservation was flipped. So what am I gonna do, you know? I had my jammies, I went into the car and I drove 11 and a half hours to get there to play. So, show must go on, right? So I got there about noon. I was tired afterwards.
I would think so. That's a great story.
It's true.
Well, thank you for asking me to play it.
I was driving. Oh yeah, and then I had just gotten a new car, and I didn't know how the thing worked. It was in the middle of the night. I didn't know how to do the cruise control or anything. I had just gotten it a week before. It was in July. Anyway, yeah, it's a fun story. I hope that doesn't happen again. That there's one more funeral that I'm to play. So I guess one day I'll get the call. We have one more performer, and one reason I wanted to tell the story about Messiaen, about the character, is that Connor is going to play the Doxology. It was written by Thomas Ken. He lived in the 1637 to 1710. He was orphaned in childhood. He was raised by an older sister and her husband. He became a scholar at the Winchester College, got a BA at the college in Oxford. And through his preaching and his music, he sought to uplift the spiritual lives of his students. So he was teaching music and theology. And the moral story is that he had some place that he was living, and somebody wanted to shack up under his roof. And he said, it's not happening here. And he held his ground on that. And because of that, he was well known in the theological circles. So a little bit like Theos. And Connor surprised me at his lesson yesterday. And he plays this a slightly different edition than what I have, which is in the original time. I don't know if you got I've sent it late last night. It's kind of with the correct rhythm. But whatever you're doing and whatever you feel comfortable with, I'd love to hear Connor play. He's going to play it the way he has it written in his church hymnal. And then after that, he came up with a little improvisation. I was really charmed with it yesterday, and I'm excited about Connor sharing that with you all today. Okay, Connor, is your piano tuned?
Oh, I guess so.
Not much you can do about it. No, I'm just teasing with you. Can we angle down, Carolyn? One moment. Carolyn, can we angle down just slightly for him? Yes, thank you. That's great. Thanks. Woohoo! Thank you. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Let me check the time. It's 11 o'clock now. Got a little bit of a late start today. Does anybody want to hang out for a little bit of discussion on a topic I wanted everyone to think about for a while, and perhaps us discuss it next time? Who has time? 5 minutes. Okay, I'll do it. This is a question that came up last week with Jared, a question to ponder. How to using media to enhance our musical understanding. 20, 30, or 40 years ago, some of us were embarking on the adventure to pursue a musical career. And at that time, if we wanted to hear somebody else play it or hear recordings, we had to go to a library, a university music school. We had to go to a record store, or maybe ask our friends if they had any vinyls to share. And better yet, a fat stereo system. And today we've got Spotify, YouTube, and in a matter of moments we can find anybody playing anything we want to hear. We can compare interpretations and performances, read commentaries, reviews of contemporary performances, learn the history, and just dive into Google land. So it was very different, like when Stewart and I were going through our training, and also think back all the way back to the 1800s. I mean, they didn't have any of this. So what did they do? So the question I wanted to bring up is, do we do as it was done before? Like when we learn a brand new piece, do we spend time with the composer, discovering and feeling each note or chord that we play, studiously stare at the music score, imagining the process of the composer as they wrote and decided where each idea will fall in the composition? I can tell you that's what I did when I was learning how to play, before I went to Conservatory. In modern times, shall we avoid listening to others play the music as we're just learning it? Do we only listen to the top concert ticket sellers? Are they necessarily correct? Do we listen to as many recordings as possible? Do we listen to one recording over and over and over again, hoping we're going to play it by osmosis? And then the other question, are the performers today better than, say, the 1800s when they were learning things differently, or the early 1900s, for example, pianist, the Clara Schumann, Mozart, Chopin, wish we had those recordings, Franz Liszt, violinist Paganini, Oistrakh, Milstein, Menuhin, Heifetz, of course, cellist Casals, Starker, Rostropovich, Dupre. Did they hear other people perform? These ones we're talking, of course, they traveled around Europe, hearing many concerts, meeting with musicians and composers to discuss everything. What if they had access to YouTube and could hear and watch everything over and over again? Would they have become greater musicians? Would it have eroded at their individuality or their artistry? This is what I've been thinking about lately. And then the other part was, at what point, I hope you all are taking notes. I worked on this. At what point in a musician's life does one leave the point of organic learning and begin listening to how others are doing it? So I've been thinking about this, and I just happened to show up at a Zoom class of my Eastman professor, Charlie Castleman. I brought up the question, and his answer was at the conservatory level, it's recommended to choose 3 and study each one carefully, and to note that the commonalities between the 3 would be considered the traditional and the correct interpretation. So there are certain things that are done traditionally, but then outside those would be the deviances and the differences between the various composers. Anybody got a comment? Come on, Stewart. Do you feel like talking today?
If you want me to, I'll be glad to. The challenge for all of us as musicians is, what do we want to achieve when we share with others? When we're on stage, when we're performing in our living room for our family, what do we want to do? And for me, that discovery happened when I saw great performances. What made me feel something, then I wanted to imitate that. We don't have that much time to go around the table to share thoughts on this, but when I got on stage, my objective was, no matter what I was playing, was for people to feel something, whether it be excitement, whether it be something heartfelt, whether it be just beauty. Those are our real objectives, so that when somebody leaves your artistry, that it creates a memorable moment. For me, that it really was when I was listening to vocalists, whether it be Pavarotti or any of those types of people. And I was a clarinetist, and my objective became, my instrument was going to be my vocal cord. And I tried to imitate those vocalists. And when I got to the conservatory, upstairs, downstairs, and across the way were all vocalists. And I would listen to them and imitate them, and eventually perform with them, but trying to make my instrument sound like somebody's voice. With with the variation of vibrato, with you know, how do you create? Stephanie brought up earlier playing something slow, and I would agree with that 1000%. Where play something slow or something by Vivaldi, but play it much slower. Not every note is equal. What do you want to bring out? What do you want to share with people? What direction does the music go? Up and down? How does it breathe? And these types of questions are what's going to create memories from concerts. Obviously, we could spend all day on here talking about this and how to do it, but Stephanie said only a few minutes, so let me stop now.
Oh, thank you, Stewart. Stewart was represented by Thea Desbecker, who was an agent that was handling many of the big opera stars. At the time, Stewart was active and touring. And I can attest to the fact that people were very moved when Stewart played, crying, and it was quite something. Weeping, I should say, not crying.
And by the way, Stephanie, on John Cage that you brought up, I was thinking when you brought it up, if any of you want to look it up on YouTube or whatever, John Cage, 433. That is a piano performance, or I want to say it's a joke. I never got to meet John Cage and find out what the heck he was thinking when he created this, but you'll get the inside joke on it. 433, John Cage.
There's a woman in New York who got a hold of my album that I recorded inside the pyramid. And this filmmaker, yeah, seriously, and she's doing a film about 6 months ago about John Cage. So she's a big John Cage fan. So somebody gave her my album, and she wrote the nicest review. She said it's her favorite travel album. I actually play on the album. It's not silent, but 433. I think it's 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 33 seconds long, maybe. But now I'm going to remember it because my favorite pitch was 432A. Yeah, Brahms was tuning to 432 towards the end of his life. Then we could go on all day about that one too. So it was great meeting you all. I would like and seeing you all. I would like to do a little bit of sharing next time about that idea, about learning music these days, what might be the preferred way to do it. Suzuki is all big about hearing it over and over and over and over and over again before you even learn it. On the other extreme, Leopold Mozart, and I'm going to find my notes about it, but Leopold Mozart, when he taught people violin and piano, he made them study the theory and understand all the structure about music. They had to be able to write the music. They had to take care of the instrument. They had to do all this for 6 months to a year before they're even allowed to touch their instrument. So, you know, I tend to think I'm kind of old school, and it might take me a little bit of convincing about having young people listen to all these other people before they play it or learning it organically. And I'll ask one question because I'm just dying to know personally from Stewart. When you were a kid learning the clarinet in California, were you listening to a lot of people already, or were you kind of doing it by yourself early on?
Early on, everybody is struggling to how do I make notes? How do I do this scale correctly? And then I started to get serious about it when I got into junior high school, and started to buy records. And, you know, we hear scales, notes on records, and wait, how do they do that? And you try to imitate. And then I talked my father into getting me the first clarinetist of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, Kelman Block, about 205 years ago. But it's all a journey. You know, how do you express yourself through that instrument that you've chosen to take passion with? And, you know, musicians they carry on through the generations. You know, Rostropovich studied with some of the greatest Russian composers, and just was extraordinary. He came to Curtis Institute several times and got to meet him and see him. But these are moments where we learn and expand ourselves, whether it be through our teachers, through a record, through YouTube, moments at a concert, and that's how I develop myself. It has to come from within. Don't you agree, Stephanie?
I do.
Yeah.
I have a story that's actually kind of a middle ground between what we've been talking about, if you're interested.
Sorry?
I have a story that's kind of a middle ground between what you've been discussing here, if you're interested.
Sure. You want to bring the curtain down with yours?
Sure.
Your story?
I had been studying with one of the cellists in the Chicago Symphony for a number of years after George Sopkin, who was a neighbor of ours growing up in Winnetka, and this CSO cellist decided to retire and stop teaching, so I had to look for another teacher. And I auditioned for Nell Novak at what used to be called the Music Center of the North Shore, now the Music Institute of Chicago. And I was playing the first movement of the Brahms E minor cello sonata. Da, 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 da. So I play through it, and out of my peripheral vision, I see she's walking around the room, and she's looking out the window, and she's writing things in her date book. So I finish, and she comes over and she says, "Well, I knew that was what it was going to sound like. This is what happens when you study with an orchestral musician." It sounded exactly like an orchestral piece. This is not an orchestral piece. This is a solo piece. And you were playing it like an orchestral piece. So I said, "Well, I want to talk about this." And she said, "Well, yes, I don't have another student for about an hour. Do you want to work on this a little bit?" "Sure." So for the next hour, I don't think we made it through the first line. She was talking about phrasing and talking about, the speed and the amplitude of vibrato and the dynamics. And so finally, after an hour of this, I said, "Well, okay, I'll go home and I'll listen to a number of recordings." And she said, "No, don't ever listen to anybody else playing. You have to listen to what the music says to you. Don't just play the notes. You were playing the notes. The notes are not the music. The notes are just the notes. All I'm interested in is what it says to you. So go home and work on this, and when you've taken it as far as you can, call me back and we'll negotiate another lesson date." So about 6 weeks later, I call her up and I said, "Okay, Nell, I think I've done as much as I can do with this. Are you interested in some more coaching?" And she says, "Yes." "Are you interested in some intense coaching?" I said, "Yes, I'm not easily intimidated. Go ahead, I'll come right in." So I came in and I played the piece and the first movement again. And as I'm playing, she's sitting right in front of me and she's looking at my fingers and she's looking at the bow and she's going, hmm, hmm, hmm. And I finished the piece, the first movement, and she says, Wayne, who have you been studying with? Namely her, of course. So she says, well, it was a little too romantic for my blood. You know, that romantic style of playing went out with Fritz Kreisler, and the critics are going to tear your butt off. I said, the critics are not going to tear my butt off because the critics are never going to hear me. So she said, well, congratulations, you played it the way it sounds for you. That's what the music said to you. That's what we should be doing. There's no right or wrong. That's exactly what I want to end up with. What does the music say to you? So that's kind of a middle ground between, you know, Mozart and all the technical stuff, or conservatory students trying to imitate famous instrumentalists. And, you know, nobody's going to confuse me with Yo-Yo Ma, but it has worked for me over the years.
Beautiful. I'd like to continue. But I'd like to talk about this again. Probably after the people perform. I'm thinking that after we play, we might be more interactive, and you know, just before we play, I don't know about you guys, but before I play, I'm just kind of focused and a bit in a tunnel. So I think it's a good idea. We'll do the performances first, and then I'd love to chat about this a little bit more and share some more insights. Thank you for that, and I was happy to hear that person. Your famous teacher had talked about, you know, not listening to other people. And see, what's the latest new piece I did? The Clara Schumann on the violin was something. That was new. The Schubert for four hands piano, that was new for me. And I did it organically. I got as much juice as I could, got a bunch of my own impressions and wrote down emotional adjectives and adverbs and stuff in there before, but I did, you know, of course, refer to, you know, Evgeny Kissin and get some tempo ideas and so forth. So, to be continued. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Anissa. Thank you, Stewart, for commenting. I always love to hear from you. And thank you, Judy, for coming, and Wayne, and Shannon, Richard. Aditya's going to sing for us one day. Thank you, Addie, for a beautiful performance. And also you too, Jared. And Connor's out walking the dog. And this, Connor, you want to say goodbye? Hey, thank you, Connor. That was really good. I really enjoyed that very much. And thank you, Mason.
Thanks for setting this up.
Naomi's here, but hiding. It's very, very early in the morning in California. Elizabeth, I think, checked out. Thank you all so much. We'll see you 3 weeks from today. It's usually 2 weeks, but there's 5 Saturdays this month. So we wait till the first Saturday of wow, I can't believe how much time has gone by. September. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.